Whoops. I forgot I had it set at 50% feed rate. The previous print I just did was at 50%. So there it is. This is my Rostock Max V2. This is an update. A lot of people have been asking me for an update on my printer. So here it is. It has about over 1,700 hours of print time on it now. If we look down here, we can see, if I turn this knob, we're up to 42 days and 18 hours just on this new E3D V6 head. The previous stock head, this one right here, lasted me about 30 days worth of printing, so that comes out to just over 1,700 hours of print time. Now, I said I'm using an E3D V6 head. I am. The reason why, after about 30 hours, this one gave up the ghost. This is the stock head. I suddenly found myself not able to... It took a really long time for the hot end to heat up there one day, and when it started printing, it wouldn't maintain temperature. It took me a while to figure out that what happened was one of these heating cartridges, or one of these heating elements, heating resistors, died. So it was down to one heating resistor. And after some digging around, I realized that it's toast and I need to replace those. And it was going to be a real pain in the ass. If you see one of my very first videos for my Rostock build, you'll see how this thing gets assembled. It has this high temperature gasket material that you have to use to solder them in, or basically to glue them in. And then you have to sort of glue the thermistor in to this little hole right there. Hope you can see it. And then clip these on, and it's a little bit of work. It's a little bit nasty. So I decided to just upgrade my hot end to the E3D V6, which was a really good choice. This is good enough to get things going. And if you're new to the 3D printing and you buy one of these and that's your first printer, then this is definitely going to keep you going for a while and let you learn how to do things and use it. But you're going to want to replace this with an E3D V6 head. Highly recommend that. One of the other mods I did to my printer is I replaced that weirdly named power supply with a better one. I'm really particular when it comes to my computer parts. If you look on my YouTube channel, you'll see there's a video there of my last computer build. I'm really particular about what I use for computer parts. So I took out that no-name brand power supply unit that I didn't trust and replaced it with a Corsair 650 watt modular power supply. I trust Corsairs, plus it's modular, meaning I only need to plug in the cables that I'm actually going to use, and I'm really anal when it comes to cable management. So there's my printer after 1,700 hours. It looks basically brand new, even though it is a bit dusty. If I pull up my camera here, and we look out on top, you can see that there's my spiderweb spool holder, and away it goes. It's just printing away. I'm printing in ABS right now. I've been doing most of my printing over the last 11 months that I've had my printer in PLA, but the new project I'm working on is definitely ABS is better suited for it, because ABS is a little softer, a little more forgiving, not as hard, but still just as strong, whereas the PLA is a little bit brittle and may not stand up to the project I'm working on. If we look at my LCD display, let me just maybe get it a little bit closer to that. You can see those bottom two lines are screwed up. Well, that happened when I went to replace the hot end. I screwed up, and I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was working on the back side of it. I was doing whatever. But anyways, I forgot to turn the damn machine off. And I grabbed my cutters, and I cut those wires right here. And as soon as I did that, it shorted out, and that was the end of it. Now, the motherboard, the Rambo motherboard, has fuses on it, which protect from the overloads, except it still blew out the bottom line on the LCD panel. So I replaced, and oddly enough, the fuse seemed like it was still good. So it was really weird, but it really was just a fuse. So I replaced the fuse, discovered that this line was blown out. Anyways, I went through all the work of replacing the hot end, couple days after that, at the time, I had actually just taken a thermistor and wired it directly onto the power wires. So after a couple of days of use, everything was great and fantastic. I went to undo those wires. Again, I somehow forgot to turn the damn machine off or even unplug it. And I touched those thermistor wires together, and boom, I fried the second line of my LCD. Ever since then, I've just been printing with the 2 lines, and it's been great because I already had the machine perfectly calibrated, so I haven't had to go into any menus on the machine or anything like that, so I haven't really been worrying about it. So, am I happy with my machine? Well, yes, overall, I am happy. 3D printers is a love-hate machine. When you get your first 3D printer, it is a love-hate relationship like you wouldn't believe. You're going to love it, you're going to hate it. You're going to go through a period of absolute intense hate. Then you're going to love it again and back and forth. And for a very long time, I went through a real big hate on this machine. Why? Because I was getting a lot of jams. I was really blaming that original hot end because I didn't know what was going on. And then I switched to the E3D V6 head, but I was still getting jams. Bugged the hell out of me. Why am I getting so many filament jams? Everything else worked really great, except when it would suddenly stop working with a filament jam. I've since been able to figure that out and got a great solution for it, and that's where this is. This is canola oil. Now, I'm not using a filter. Don't use an oil filter on this machine. If you use an oil filter, what happens is you're constantly feeding oil onto your filament, and it'll build up on your hot end. It'll cause all sorts of problems. Specifically, you won't get a good bed adhesion. Instead, just take some canola oil. You don't really have to do it with ABS that I've noticed, but with PLA, when you're doing a lot of PLA work, every once in a while, I don't know, every 30, 40 hours of printing, just take some canola oil, put it on a paper towel, and then just wipe it onto your filament up here. I just wipe it onto that filament right there, in between the top and the extruder, just those, 20 centimeters or so. And that will season and re-season the hot end, and it stops all jamming. Now, it doesn't last forever, so that's why I say do it every once in a while. Whenever I use Ninja Flex, I will feed in the Ninja Flex, and then I will take out another 50 centimeters or so, 50 to 75 centimeters, and then I will rub canola oil onto it. Not on this first bit, because I want to make sure I get good bed adhesion. But with the Ninja Flex, it's a really sticky material. It's much higher, it's much more prone to jamming. So don't use an oil filter, just season it every now and then with a little bit of canola oil on a piece of paper towel, rub it on your filament, and you're done. You're set up for a long time. That has solved all jamming problems for me with both PLA and, more importantly, with Ninja Flex. I don't get any jamming with the Ninja Flex anymore, which is just awesome. So bed adhesion, that's always a big question. I get fantastic bed adhesion. I'm using ABS right now. I'm not even worried. I know nothing is going to curl up or anything like that. I use this glue right here. This is Elmer's Extra Strength Glue Stick. What I do is I put one coat down, wait for it to dry. It takes a few minutes. Put a second coat down, wait for it to dry. And because I'm using ABS, I'll put a third coat down and wait for it to dry. And then I'll do the preheat and print. And then I'll do multiple prints on the glue, and I'll just put another coat of glue down and do another print, I just leave it like that until I get like 5 or 6 layers of paint or of glue before I bother cleaning it off. It cleans off ridiculously easy with just water and a good paper towel. Just get some water, soak your paper towel, don't wring it really, really dry, and then just start wiping it off, and after like 30 seconds, it'll all be loosened up, you clean it right off. Grab a second paper towel, soak it, squeeze it really dry, give it a nice wipe. Now for me, I do a final cleaning with Windex, and I'm done. I get a perfectly clean plate. Water-soluble glue, works like a charm, excellent bed adhesion. No problems at all. I'm not sure you can actually see what's going on there, but getting a beautiful bed adhesion. Let's try and maybe get a close-up there. If we have a look here, we can see over on the edge of my table a whole bunch of prints that I've gone through. I don't know if I'm typical or not, but the vast majority of the filament I use, probably 80% of it or more, is just spent on test prints. And that's all these are, is just test prints after test prints. But all of this is actually, all of this actually is PLA. See a little knob here, that was a test print. it was printed like this. You can see that's a really nice hole. You got good details. Oh, a little more detail about the hot end. I'm using a 0.3 millimeter nozzle. My slicer settings that I use for everything are 0.2 millimeter layer heights. I always use 3 perimeters and 3 surface layers. I find the 3 surface layers, that third surface layer ends up giving you a really nice surface layer. This is ABS. This is before I worked through another problem that I was having. So I've had my printer for 11 months, and I discovered that another problem I was having that had developed, I was having odd bed adhesion problems, and I couldn't figure it out. And I discovered that after, pardon me, 11 months worth of use, the carriages had come slightly loose, all 3 of them, just on this top bearing. There was just the slightest amount of play, but it was enough to totally mess up that first layer. So just a slight tightening after 11 months, I'm back to basically a really perfectly working printer. And I get really good prints. In fact, you can see these are some ABS gears that I have here. Let me get back into focus. You can see the gears came out really nice. These gears are ABS. This is in PLA. Now, oddly enough, I've been having slight adhesion problems with PLA all of a sudden, and I don't get it. I don't get curling on the edges, but occasionally, when it's doing that first layer, it won't really stick quite properly, and I don't know why. That's bugging the hell out of me. So this is just a test print for what's going to be a gear case. So we have the pinion there with the motor. This gear mounts onto there. I haven't quite set any gear sizes yet. And then these gears go on where? Here. Like that. And then this gear, oh, where's the third gear set? This third gear set go, what the hell? Oh, goes in here. And this gives me and then with the final drive gear, which goes on to here somewhere. Well, actually, it kind of goes, anyways, I got a 40 to 1 gear ratio for this. This is what I'm building right now. Give you another idea of how well the ABS prints are coming out. This is all ABS. You can see it's come out really nice prints. So overall, I am quite happy with it. One thing is that it has such a huge build volume, and that's going to be enticing for people, you know. The advertisement is you get this massive build volume. Don't worry about it. You're not going to be really using most of that build volume, especially with ABS. The thing is this is wide open. It's not enclosed. As soon as you get too far off the platform, like, you know, 5 centimeters at most, that ABS cools down too quickly, and you'll end up with really bad layer adhesion, and you just have problems with ABS. If this was a closed environment that kept that heat inside better, then you'd be able to use more of that build volume, and it would work well. Final thing I want to say is, if you've noticed on my hot end, I have 3 fans on there. And the fans are for PLA. I don't use them for ABS, of course. If you're looking to buy a Rostock Max V2 printer, I highly and strongly recommend that you order a couple of these extra squirrel cage fans at the same time as you order your printer. And you go ahead and hook up all 3 fans. Print out 3 layer fans and use them. The reason why is because it gives you even cooling. You're not trying to push a lot of air. You're not trying to do a lot of cooling. In fact, I only run these between 40 to 50% maximum on all my prints. You're not trying to push a lot of air, but you're trying to get air on all sides. Think about if you're printing something tall like this and square. Where's a good example? Or something that has, that's a bad example. You know, you're printing something that's sort of angled like that, 45 degrees on each side. If you only have the 1 fan, and you're printing something that was square, and your fan is pointing here, you're going to get a really great corner on this side. It's going to work well. These other 2 corners will come out really well. But the corner over here that's opposite your fan is going to suck. You're going to get a lot of curling on it. If you're doing overhangs, you want to get the nice cooling on it. If you have 1 fan, you're only going to have 1 side that gets a nice overhang. The other side is going to get a lot of curling. Using the 3 fans, you get even airflow on all sides of your print, and you get much better corners all the way around. You're going to have a much better job of printing. I highly recommend the 3 fans. It's not for a lot of air, it's for even air. Anyway, so I hope this is the update for my printer that everybody's been asking me for. I hope it's giving you good information. I've learned a lot. Like I said, a lot of the printing I do just seems to end up in the garbage because they're test prints as I work towards my final goal. You can see here, we got some, this is all ABS, this is test prints. And you can see they came out really well. A little bit of bridging in there, came out very well. These will be Ninja Flex inserts in there. It's pretty obvious what that is. So yeah, I mean, these, you can see that it's all curved and filleted inside and looks really good. Very nice prints. I really hope that was in focus. I really hope that was in focus. It wasn't. So this is it. Like, check that out. Looks pretty good. So this was a bit of a stress test where I printed these and pulled them apart. It took a hell of a lot of effort for me to pull that apart. So I have in fact made these just a bit thicker. See some other earlier test prints. As you can see, they just keep getting bigger and bigger. You can kind of imagine how that would work. This is here. No, like this. Put this sitting on top. There'll be Ninja Flex tires. That's actually what this is. This is a Ninja Flex tire, just to keep it quiet as it runs over the tracks, right? And then a suspension system. It's going to be a big-ass tank, that's all I can say. I'm not even in focus again. Jesus, I suck with the camera. So it looks like that. So there we are. That's my update on my Rostock Max 2. It is a good printer. Excuse me. Oh, God. Sorry about that. Canola oil. Season your hot end every now and then when you're using PLA and especially Ninja Flex. Triple fans for the cooling. And upgrade to the E3D V6 hot end as soon as you can and when it's convenient for you, because the stock hot end goes... Heating resistors, they're just not going to last very long. I also recommend going to at least a 0.3 millimeter nozzle because it works very well. One last thing I'll say, spend the time and effort necessary to properly and thoroughly calibrate your machine. It's a pain in the ass, it's a huge amount of work, takes a very long time to get that calibration right the first time, but once it's there, you're done. I pop this off every now and then to change the nozzle. I put a new nozzle on when it wears out, or to clean it, or because I've screwed something up and I've got a bad print going and it's kind of put filament all over it and I got to clean it. Put it back on and spend just a couple of minutes to recalibrate it, because once you've got that first perfect calibration, it's much easier to calibrate it a second time. And it's good printing, and off you go. So there we are. I hope that was mostly in frame. And I hope that helps you. I am happy with my printer. Like I said, it's been a love-hate relationship, and for a very long time I really, really hated my printer. But it works great now. This is the a cog. If we have a look here, we can see that it matches right up. Oh, this is the wrong track. It's too thick for that one. But it matches up fine. So that's the cog. Printing my own nuts. As we can see here, this is a gear, the final gear. You can imagine that this cog will sit on the other end of it, driven by this motor, driven by that motor, and the gear system to this drives this cog, fiberglass, works great. This is actually, there's a bearing in here. It's a 50 millimeter bearing, 1/2 inch tube, so I printed, this is only like 2 layers thick, and yet it's perfectly tight on there. It's a really good fit. Just took a little bit of filing to make it really, really perfect. And then the bearing, God, I'm still not even in focus. The bearing slides right over that, and then, so again, just a perfect little test print. It's awesome. This is a 3D printed nut that I made. I just cut the threads with a standard tap to screw it right onto this. I cut the threads onto the fiberglass with a standard die, and then I tapped out the nut, and it fits all perfectly. It's all gorgeous. I guess there's one last thing I'll show you that I've done with my printer. You can see it in an earlier video or read about it on 3ders.com. This is a drill press that I made in PLA. My Dremel extension tool goes right into there. And so that's my drill press. Again, overall, I'm fairly happy with it now that I've gotten over the hurdles and everything is working well. It spends a lot of time printing. Like I said, I've got over 1,700 hours of print time in the past 11 months. I'm going to put on another couple hours tonight. Again, more test prints. Well, actually, only these two are test prints. These two are actually jigs for drilling holes into the fiberglass tubes. It'll be for these screws. Anyways, that's a big-ass motor, eh? So there we go. That's I guess, all I got to say now. Hopefully that was at least somewhat informative. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and this will be my latest update on my Rostock Max V2 from CNC with, like I said, the E3D V6 head. Cheers.